snack. Me and you gonna have a little chat about books. It's called Half a King by Joe Abercrombie, and this is kind of his foray into YA and follows the main character of Yarvi. Yarvi is a cripple who only has one hand, and therefore at the beginning of the book, when his family are discovered to be dead in an accident, he is made into the king, and he was in training to be a minister, so he has no idea about being a king. He doesn't understand it. He doesn't know the political manoeuvring that he needs to do in order to get people on his side. He doesn't know any of that because he was never intended to be the king. He had an older brother and he had a father who was already the king, but they both get killed in this accident, and therefore he's left completely in the dark, having to take on the role of a king and explore what is going to happen, how he's going to start ruling this kingdom, and what he is going to do. Generally, with this situation, he never wanted and never asked for, because he's always wanted to be a minister. He didn't ever want to be a king, and he's definitely not really cut out to be a king. His training as a minister is definitely a great addition to this book, because it means that he is not only intelligent, but he also is witty and entertaining. He's got some very, very funny remarks and comments that he comes out with during this book, which I really, really enjoyed. He definitely tries his best in situations, but he's not trained to be a king. He doesn't know how everything at court works. He doesn't know how to get people on his side. He doesn't have the training to do all of that. And so he really isn't sure how he's going to rule this kingdom. He's very out of his depth, and he has a lot of learning to do. He is a young king, and he's also only got one hand, so he was never really proficiently trained at using weapons and protecting the kingdom and defending it. He doesn't really feel at ease being a king. He really was not designed to be the king. However, he's not without his own set of skills, which are gained from the ministry. He is a very loyal character. He definitely, when he swears an oath, he's going to follow it through, and he is a determined character, which I did like seeing. He swears an oath in this book, and that leads him on to some other circumstances which he was definitely not anticipating. This is definitely not your kind of average, everyone's a happy person read. There are some really nasty people, there are some backstabbers, there are some people who turn on our main character, and it's definitely a bit twisted, which I liked. I thought everyone was mysterious, everyone was questionable, and that was definitely a great addition because it made you think about the characters and it made you wonder, are they good, are they bad, are they somewhere in the middle? We don't know. And it definitely allowed for a lot of twists and turns to go on, which Joe Abercrombie took full advantage of and throw in a lot of twists and turns in the story, but I like that. One slight issue that I have with this book is that the writing is so incredibly fast-paced that it doesn't feel like it's a very long book. It feels like it's incredibly short and you just kind of rush through it, or at least for me it did. It only took me about 4 hours to read the entire book, which is I think around 350, 360 pages, something like that. And so I felt like I was completely just steamrolling through the book because it was so incredibly fast-paced, and I didn't feel like we got a true understanding of the characters. We definitely got an understanding of Yarvi because he's the main character and it's told from first person, but we didn't get a massive amount of insight into the other characters who he meets, and we didn't get a massive amount of insight into where they're from, whether they're good or bad, what their real motivations are. All of this is hinted at, but there's just not a lot of development because it is a short book and it's very, very fast-paced. There were other characters within this who I liked. For example, I really was intrigued by the dark, kind of uncaring, nasty nature of the Golden Queen, who certainly seems like really full of herself, and she's very elitist and she looks down on her son. So I thought she was a really interesting character, but we don't get to see a whole lot about her. I also really enjoyed the character of Nothing. He was someone who we encounter a little bit further through the book, but he definitely plays a massive role in how the book turns out and everything that happens, and I thought he was really mysterious. There were other characters as well who were intriguing, but we just didn't get enough about them to really justify including them. I hope that we do get to see more of them in book number 2, and I do plan on reading book number 2 in a couple of days because it's just come out. But I didn't feel a massive connection to them. I felt like they were kind of in the story for reasons, but their reasons were not completely explained and the characters were not a hugely amount developed. So although I really enjoyed this book, and I definitely did, because I raced through it so fast and I had a good time reading it, it wasn't as developed as I like, and it definitely didn't compare to the First Law series, in my opinion, which is a lot better. I've only read the first 2 of First Law, but I really enjoyed them and I thought they were both excellently done, and this one certainly feels like it has been dumbed down a bit, in my opinion, to kind of appeal to the YA market, which I feel is a shame because his writing is great and I don't think it needs to be dumbed down to appeal to the YA market, but clearly that is the approach he's taken and it definitely shows, which I wasn't a massive fan of. However, the storyline is quite fun. He does go on a large amount of adventures, he goes through some different scenery and we get to see him on like the run, we get to see him as he's commanding, we get to see him as he's leading troops. It's all very exciting and I did like sort of seeing how he went from one thing to another thing to another thing. Overall, it just wasn't a developed book. It didn't have the development that I really like from Joe Abercrombie, and because it's only told from first person and it's not multiple perspectives, we don't see enough about the other characters yet to know what they're thinking, to know their motivations and to be able to judge them. So I think over the course of the series it will probably grow and be a lot more about developed characters, which I'm sure will be good. But for the moment, I just didn't feel like it had enough development and therefore I couldn't give it any higher than a 3-star rating, which is still great. I really enjoyed it still. I definitely don't want you guys to get the wrong idea and think I didn't enjoy it. I just didn't feel like it was a hugely developed book. So overall, a very, very fun read, and I really want to know more about the ministry in particular because although it's mentioned a lot, we don't get a huge amount about it. We also get mention of the gods in this world, which is really interesting. But again, it's not developed massively. From the ending of this book and how everything turns out, I do have a feeling that we are going to see a lot more about the ministry and how all of that works and how it kind of ties in with the royalty. I think that will be really interesting and I'm definitely looking forward to reading book number 2 and hopefully finding all of that out and getting some of my questions answered. But for the moment, I ended up giving this a 3 out of 5 stars and I would absolutely love to know your thoughts on this. I do think it's a great place to start with Joe Abercrombie, but I do think that his adult series is a lot better. I did enjoy this and I would love to know what you guys think of it as well, so do leave me your comments down below. Thank you all for watching and I will see you all very soon in another video. Bye! Me and you gonna have a little chat about the